Thank you, everybody, for coming. I believe that local politics are incredibly important, and so the few dozen of you here in the room are the mavens of your community. You are the people who know what's going on, and so I encourage you to reach out to local friends and family about what you've learned here. If you are so inclined, I'm on social media and using the hashtag Canby Forum, so that's a way to connect with other people if anybody is on Twitter or Facebook. So this election season, I think we can all agree, in the national level has been very divisive. And I think that Canby's better than that. So I want to make sure that we have a lot of positive applause and things, but booing and heckling are not what we're about here. And please try to keep your guns in their holsters, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So my name's Shasta Kearns-Moore. I'll be your moderator tonight. I work as a reporter at Portland Tribune, which is a sister paper to the Canby Herald. The Neighborhood Association, a coalition of neighborhood association chairs, came up with these questions. From Southwest Canby, it's Jackie Jones. From Southeast Canby, it's Doug Thomas. Northeast Canby is Dan Leischner. Yeah. Northwest Canby is Bob Backstrom. And today we have Councilor Tim Dale and candidate Sarah Spoon, Councilor Clint Coleman, and candidate Irene Konev, and Councilor Tracy Hensley. So these questions were developed over a period of weeks. The neighborhood association chairs wanted to ask important, timely, highly publicized, and relevant questions from a Canby neighborhood perspective. They tried to simulate important situations that would be expected of and encountered by Canby city councilors. They didn't want questions to be gotcha style because that's not how decisions are made in Canby City Council. Councilors receive agendas and know the issues to be decided well in advance. They have time to study, do research, discuss, consult with others, and they're not strictly limited to what they can bring to the meetings. So because of time limits and the amount of time that we have in this room, we limited the questions to 6, and that will set us up for about a 2.5-hour evening. So thank you guys very much for staying here. Our questions are going to be or the candidates are going to come up to the podium to answer the question in revolving order. And do you guys know your numbers? Okay. And then there'll be a timer back there who's going to wave, he's going to hold up a red flag when it's 30 seconds and then wave it when your time is up. All right, first question. Or I guess we're going to start with candidates' opening statements. So, number 1, are you number 1? No. Okay.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I think citizen engagement is key, and so to see all you faces here to be plugged into local politics is really encouraging. Thank you for coming. My name is Tracy Hensley. I was appointed in 2011 and elected in 2012. And I love what I do. I love working for you. We are elected to work for you. And to me, that means protecting the citizens' rights and not infringing upon them. It means advocating for business promoting policies and not creating red tape and obstacles that will impede economic growth. And it's to be good stewards of your tax dollars. And I think we've done a good job of that in the last 4 years. And I will really welcome the opportunity to continue to serve you as your city councilor. Thank you.
All right, Irene.
Good evening, my name is Irene Konev. I'm a Canby resident and a homeowner here for 11 years. I grew up around here and I'm a mom of 7. I've raised my children. My youngest is about to turn 21 next month. And I decided to, I've been serving my family, I've been serving my community, and I decided to serve my city. I work for the city auditor's office, so I have a lens in government accountability and trust building, There's a huge disenchantment with a lot of community members in government right now. And my job in the last 7 years has been to build that trust. And I look forward to being, I've enjoyed being in Canada. I've come to your door. I've heard your feedback directly. I appreciate your time at the door, and I look forward to continuing my candidate run and to serving you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. My name is Clint Coleman. I'm a financial advisor and have an office here in Canby. I live here in Canby with my wonderful wife, Tammy, and our two little dogs, Emma and Joey. I'm a native Oregonian from St. Paul, Oregon, a small community of about 15 miles southwest of here, population of approximately 400. So you really get that small town feel. I grew up in a large Catholic family, the youngest of 6 children. I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. My mother was a school teacher, my father an engineer. My oldest sister's first teaching job was here in Canby at Knight Elementary School. And I think one of the things that's helped me growing up was sometimes to figure out what you want to do, you kind of have to figure out what you don't want to do. And one of the things I didn't want, my dad was gone a lot when I was growing up. He'd have a lot of projects that would take him out of town. And I knew when I grew up I wanted to have a good solid community where I didn't have to move around. I also knew that as much as I love St. Paul, you have to pretty much drive about 10 miles to get gas, get your hair cut, get groceries. And I knew I wanted a community that had all of those things. And I really admired Canby when my sister came to teach here. My first job working on the farm at age 13, I did that until about age 15. And at that time, I got a job at Newburgh Honda Motorcycle Shop where I started detailing motorcycles, worked my way in the parts department, the sales department, and really worked all around that business. And that's where I really learned that I enjoyed working with people. I continued working there while I attended Portland Community College in Portland State. And while growing up, I very much admired my brother's occupation as a stockbroker and knew that was something I wanted to do. While I was attending college, I had the opportunity to get my broker's license. I went to work in Portland for A.G. Edwards and worked there from 1986 to 1995 while living and working in Portland. I changed companies and opened an Edward Jones office in West Lynn in 1995. It's kind of funny. I visited the home office in St. Louis and they said, "Where would you like to have an office?" And I said, "Canby." And they said, "Well, we already have an office there. We're not looking at another one at this time." So I said, "Well, what about Wilsonville?" And the same response. Oregon City, same response. Lake Oswego, same response. And so West Lynn, they did not have an office, and so that's how I ended up there. I didn't know anyone in the community, so I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I was invited to serve on the board and became president. I joined the Lions Club, had the opportunity to serve on the board and became president. Joined the West Lynn Old Time Fair, was a board member and chairman. And in 2003, I was voted Citizen of the Year for my community involvement. But my greatest accomplishment in West Lynn was, that's where I met my wife, Tammy. I met her in the year 2000. We got married in 2004, built a home here in Canby in 2005. I moved my business to Canby in 2007, and I joined the Chamber of Commerce here, the Main Street Design Committee. I've been a Cuts Force Car Show judge for the last 5 years, Canby Rodeo member for the last 10 years, St. Paul Rodeo member for the last 15 years, and I had an invitation to participate in the Ford Family Foundation leadership class, and that's what led me to apply for the open council position, which came open when Mayor Hodson went from a councilor to a mayor. And my wife and I love Canby, and just proud to be a part of the community.
Thank you.
Good evening. First off, I want to thank Shasta for moderating. I appreciate it. And all the neighborhood association leaders, thank you for putting this together. I think it's really great to have an opportunity for all of us to share our thoughts on what's important. And thank you to everyone for taking time out to come and listen and engage. I've met many of you. Some of you are friends or neighbors. I've met some of you by coming to your businesses and some of you by knocking on doors. But I haven't met everyone. So I just want to take a minute to tell you who I am and why I'm running for office. My name is Sarah. I'm a mom of 4 kids, ages 8, 12, 14, and 16, and all 4 of them attend Canby Public Schools. I have 1 at Lee, 2 at Baker Prairie, and 1 at Canby High. I'm a business development officer for a title and escrow company, which means a lot of things, but at the very end of the day, what it means is I help cultivate relationships between stakeholders in real estate transactions so that all people who have opposing needs can come to the table. And I work with realtors, lenders, land developers, builders, and attorneys. And I get them all to come to the same table and talk. I'm from Canby. I went to Karis Elementary School. I went to Ackerman Junior High and Canby High School. I graduated 20 years ago this year. We had our 20-year high school reunion at the Canby Rod and Gun Club, which would only happen here, right? And in that time, when I lived out by Karis, I lived on a farm where we raised sheep and cows and pigs, and I showed my sheep at the Clackamas County Fair all through elementary school. And then when we moved closer in, my family had a filbert farm. And about this very same 2-week period every year, my brother and I would sit on a tractor and pick sticks off of a conveyor belt so that my parents could sell the filberts to Blue Diamond. I was the president of the high school debate team, and then I ultimately left for college. I went and I competed for the debate team at Syracuse University. And then in the following years, I lived on the East Coast. I lived in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and then I came back to the Portland area. One of the things that I learned in that time is a real passion for volunteerism. And when I was 17 years old, I started volunteering for Our House of Portland, which is a residence for people in the late stages of AIDS before the drug cocktail existed that treated and gave a cure. And from then on, I always volunteered. I came back, though, and I remember being 17, and my parents were like, someday you'll come back. And I was like, no, I'm going to go live in the big city. And I did. And then I had my family, and I thought about all of the different communities I had lived in, what I loved about them, and what I missed. And no matter where I lived, there was only one place I ever called home, and that was here. So when I had my own children, and I thought about the childhood that I had, and the childhood I wanted them to have, there was only one town I ever considered raising them in. And that's why I came back. And I care about being a part of our city government because I think our city is facing a lot of challenges. When I first lived here, it was under 7,000 people, and now we're up above 17,000 people. And somehow in that entire process, we've managed to keep that same sense of community. And I tell people all the time, no one comes to Canby because they're looking for a place to live. And no one comes to Canby because the commute is convenient. You come to Canby because you're looking to be a part of a community. And I feel very strongly that there's an opening and a time sometimes to add a new voice to that. This is the only place I've ever called home, and I'm running for city council because I care about my children having the same experience that I had when I was a child. And I hope tonight you'll get to hear from me that I'm a measured leader, I'm reasonable, I listen to people from all sides of the issue, I build consensus, and I find a way, at the end of the day, that we may disagree on particular issues, we're all neighbors. And that's how I intend to lead, should I be honored enough to get your vote. Thank you.
Well, likewise, thank you to all the neighborhood associations. Can you hear me now? Is that working? For putting this event on. I know it's a lot of work, a lot of time and energy, and we thank you for the forum tonight. And thank you to everyone that came out to invest a rainy Thursday evening with us when there's probably a lot more entertaining things to watch on television. So thank you for being here. Rather than do much political up front, there'll be time for that later, I thought I'd likewise just help you get to know me a little better. I am Tim Dale. I've been a husband for 34 years. My wife, Deb, is out here in the audience, there in the middle. I am the father of 2 high school daughters. I accept your condolences, and many of you have been there. If you do the math, you can figure out Deb and I got kind of a late start on having kids, but they are the light of my life and keep me energized. My family originally moved to Canby in 1900, came from the Midwest and from Canada. I grew up out in the country between Oregon City and Canby, but I went to school all 12 years here at Canby Public Schools, 13 if you count kindergarten with Betty Polstowait back in the day. And I graduated from what was then Canby Union High School. We still had the Union in the name, and I'm pretty sure I graduated from there before everybody else. It's kind of an odd feeling. I studied computer science at Portland State University and Oregon Graduate Institute. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Warner Pacific College. My entire career has been in high-tech product development, which means I am a computer nerd, but most of my career and day in my job is spent pulling together various teams at work: engineers, scientists, marketeers, managers, all the people that it takes to produce a product, finding consensus, finding the best way to build what the customer wants and get it successfully out the door. I've lived in a variety of areas in the places in the metro area, but when Deb and I finally got started on our family, we decided that the place to be to raise our kids was back in Canby. And so we moved back 14 years ago and lived just across the street over not far from Doug. It's been my privilege and honor to serve on city council for 5 years, the last 3 of which have been in the leadership roles of president of the city council, chairman of the budget committee, and chairman of the urban renewal agency. Getting to know me means hearing about what I believe in. And I believe that people want city government that's efficient and it's effective and it gets the job done with minimal intrusion on our lives and our wallets. I believe tolerance is a two-way street. It's not just agreeing with the loudest or agreeing with those that see the world our way, but it honors the sacred American principles of freedom, freedom of speech, and living together in peace and freedom. I believe Canby is a large, diverse family. And whether there is a diversity of representatives or not, it is my job as counselor to do my best to represent everyone. I believe inclusivity means not focusing on our differences, but on our similarities, that we are all part of the Canby family, working together, listening together, and helping each other to keep Canby great. I believe in keeping government open and accurate, that our greatest natural asset is our livability, in protecting our citizens, especially our children, and that our greatest resource is our people, all of the people of Canby. So thank you.
So now we'll start with questions 1 and 2. The first question goes to Irene, and this is, do you approve of recreational marijuana dispensaries in Canby? Why or why not? And how will you vote regarding the recreational marijuana sales in Canby?
Thank you. I'm quite a bit shorter. So the decision is going to be up to the voters here in Canby. It's going to be ultimately your voice that makes that decision about the dispensaries. Those that choose to participate in the use of marijuana, that's their choice. They can decide to do that, and if they need to get their, if they need to go and pick up their marijuana somewhere else, they will. If we have a shop here because you've decided through your vote to have it here, then they'll come here. I think the most important thing is to give that choice to people. And as far as for me, what I'm still deciding, just probably like you all are. You're probably thinking about this really important question, and I am too. And as the days get closer, and I know our ballots are coming or have come, I think we'll all have a big decision to make. Because on the other hand, we will lose some revenue from not having the dispensary here. But ultimately, we together will make that choice. And as the days come closer to making that decision, I am asking myself a lot of questions, as you are, I'm sure, as well. Thank you.
This is a good question. I'm glad we put this issue to the vote of the people. I encourage voters to ask themselves if allowing dispensaries in Canby will improve the quality of life here, will it improve the livability, improve the safety of our streets. One of my liaison duties as city councilor has been to traffic safety, and I see the risk that distracted driving can cause in increased accidents, people talking on cell phones and texting while driving. When we have impaired drivers, it puts extra stress on our police force. When a traffic officer has to process a DUI or an impaired driver, there's a considerable amount of downtime to process this. This takes one of our officers off the streets to process. And I don't believe the increased revenues are a good enough reason. There is no amount of tax revenue that can replace the life of one of our citizens taken due to an accident from an impaired driver. I don't believe that this is something our community needs to promote. I'm going to vote no. And if you look at the studies in the states that have approved marijuana, the death rate in automobile accidents has increased 100% in Washington and Colorado, and I can provide the statistics after if you see me after, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
This is a really interesting question. It is going to be up to the voters. I was actually kind of surprised to see it because it's no longer facing city council. But what you'll learn about me is I'm someone that will always tell you where I stand, even if it's politically inconvenient. So I take no shame in saying that I do intend to personally vote for allowing dispensaries in the city of Canby and the sister legislation, which will allow us to generate an additional 3% tax revenue on any sales from that. One of the things that colors my opinion on this is that it's legal statewide already, and the state's generating a tremendous amount of revenue. And until there's a dispensary in Canby, Canby actually gets none of that tax revenue. It goes only to towns that allow a dispensary. We could also put the 3% tax on top of it. And I understand the concern, because the question is, what happens with impaired driving and what happens if pot is in Canby? But the answer to that is kind of simple for me because it's already here. Without a dispensary, any home inside the city limits can grow up to 4 plants on their own. Inside the Canby Fire District, we have actually about 22 professional grow operations, and anyone can purchase pot outside of the city and bring it back in. So to me, the question about impaired driving isn't about whether we should have a dispensary, it's about whether or not it should be legal. And it's already legal. So the question is, if it's going to be legal, does Canby deserve a piece of the revenue pie? If pot's going to be here, if drivers might be smoking it, if it's going to be here regardless of whether or not we have a dispensary, maybe we deserve a piece of the revenue pie. And one of the things you'll hear us talking about later are some shortages that we're going to be facing in our budget. And this might be a way that we can handle some of those. And I understand it's inconvenient and it's not something that's easy to talk about because everyone disagrees. But rest assured, I have 4 kids. I want none of them playing with guns, smoking pot, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, or playing video poker. But I assure you, I won't be looking to ban any of those businesses in Canby either.
Thank you.
When I consider an issue before the council, I always ask myself, how does this make Canby better? How does it make life here better? And one of the tests I use for that is, how will it benefit or impact our children? And in the end with marijuana, I just don't see a net positive for Canby, and particularly our children. I know Sarah on her website said she was disappointed that the council referred the dispensary decision to the voters, that it was a hard decision that the council should have made. Well, in fact, we did not defer at all. We did make the hard decision, and we decided to ban local dispensaries in Canby. And we believe that reflected the will of the voters in all 3 precincts. Canby didn't go along with the rest of Oregon. We said no to marijuana, and so your city council respected that and went along with it. Sarah didn't really want you to have a further say in the matter. She just wanted the dispensaries here. But nevertheless, it's on November's ballot, not because we deferred it, but because state law says it must be. The defeat in Canby was narrow. It was not a 55%. And so it is being referred to you, and you'll get to decide ultimately whether you want dispensaries here in Canby. Some may get squeamish about revealing their personal vote. I don't. I think it's important to know how your candidates vote. I'll be voting against dispensaries. It is simply not worth it to me to endanger the safety of our children for the lure of tax dollars. Thank you.
Yes, it's true. Measure 91 made marijuana legal statewide, but it is still federally illegal. To have a business license in the city of Canby, you must abide by all local, state, and federal laws. Before passing an ordinance to change the business license requirements, we did look at the data, and all 3 precincts in the city of Canby said no to Measure 91. And like Councilor Dale mentioned, it was within that parameter where we had to follow the language in Measure 91 that referred it to the voters. And so that's what we did. We referred it to the voters to back up our decision to not allow them within the city. Voted people, excuse me, sorry. The other piece of that was the tax revenue. I believe that the revenue we would get would not be worth compromising the livability. And the question about personal vote, well, I've already voted. Signed, sealed, and won't be delivered till November 8th, but I've already voted. And I voted no for Measure 3483, but I voted yes on 3484. Because there is something that the legislature sometimes likes to do, and one of our legislators is in the room, so I hope I don't offend him, but they could change their mind and decide that we don't get local control and make us allow them whether we voted for it or not. Or maybe you guys do decide to change your mind on Measure 91 and you'll go ahead and approve 3483, and then we wouldn't have the ability to put that 3% on. So we're asking those questions at the same time. So I voted no on 83 and yes on 84 because I don't think that dispensaries are good for our kids. I don't think it's good for livability. They're not good for Canby.
All right, we'll move on to question 2. After this year's Independence Day parade concerns, would you allow or deny a Confederate float with flags in next year's parade? Do you agree with the City Council's decision and position taken? Why or why not? Yes. No, she went first last time.
I believe the council did make the right decision by properly announcing and convening the soonest meeting allowed under law to create and approve a resolution that states our disapproval of the Confederate floats and flags. These are ugly reminders of shameful past, and we do not need to approve it. However, we also were reminded that we must abide by the Constitution of the United States and our attorney's advice that we cannot prevent these floats from participating in our celebrations in the future, but as we can subject our city to lawsuits. I would recommend we tailor the parade application to encourage parameters of non-hate. This needs to be a celebration, not a controversial one.
I would not ban any particular float from the parade. I believe it's an honor and a privilege and a responsibility of City Council to follow the Constitution. But I want to tell you a story about why I went to the City Council to talk about this issue and to encourage something to be said. My family always goes to the Independence Day event just like I did as a child when it was General Canby Days. And the float came around the corner that was covered, that had several different types of flags on them. And I thought about it for a while. It took me by surprise. Everyone around us kind of went quiet. We had never seen a float like that in the parade before. And later that day, I asked questions of a number of Chris's and my friends in Canby of different races and ethnicities about how they in particular felt when they saw it. And it was never a question of whether or not they were offended, because that's not the answer we got. On some occasions, we heard that they were hurt, but there was one statement that caused me to say something about it. And that's one of my friends told me he has at times all through his life faced subtle racism, and not everyone that has any particular flags is racist or not racist. But this was the first time in Canby that he felt unsafe. And I know that I live in Canby because I want my family to be safe, and I feel like every one of my neighbors, regardless of their race, should also be safe, which is why I approached City Council. While it takes a city a while to go through the process of public hearing, any individual leader can stand up and remind their constituents that they're safe, and that everyone absolutely has the right to free speech. But we can have the right to free speech, and we can find a consensus and say it's not either or. It's not either free speech or feeling safe. You can respect free speech, honor, and protect it. And you can also tell people in Canby that just because a float is in our parade, that in no way defines the value of our community, and everyone, regardless of race, should feel safe here because they are safe here. That's similar to the resolution I proposed. All 3 incumbents voted for it. It passed unanimously. And I think that it's a demonstration of leadership to find both and solutions.
So we did pass a resolution as quickly as we could convene a meeting within the limits of public meeting law. And it was a resolution that in the end really changed nothing. It formally affirmed each and every counselor's personal abhorrence of such ugliness and hatefulness. And it affirmed our duty to protect the U.S. and state constitutions. I was the counselor that directly asked our city attorney if I could go up to a float and say, that float is not appropriate for my town. You're out of here. And my city attorney said, Tim, you can't do that. And you know what? His answer was right. I can't do that. I have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution. And religious text aside, the Bill of Rights is the most precious document that anyone living in America has. It's not always convenient, and sometimes it's a two-edged sword, and it cuts both ways, but it protects us. And it's a slippery slope when you try to ban hate speech and hate symbols. There are millions of Americans that think the U.S. flag and the cross are offensive. There are millions of Americans that think the Bible contains hate speech. It's a very slippery and dangerous slope to go down. The Confederate flag offends me on many, many levels. But true tolerance is accepting that not everyone's going to agree with me, and some will offend my sensibilities and those of our community. But I will not dilute our constitutional rights. I have sworn an oath as a sitting counselor to defend the Constitution. And that includes your right and my right to speak out against that which you disagree with, whether it's a zoning change, a city budget, or a Confederate flag. That's a great part of being an American. Thank you.
I'm a little shorter than Tim, too. I think the council acted appropriately. We responded as quickly as we could within the law, and we had a public meeting, and we heard public comment, and several folks came out and shared their thoughts with us. I believe the resolution we passed sent a message that this council and this community does not condone messages of hate, but we still remained within the constitutional limits and respected everybody's First Amendment rights. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm the biggest defender of our Bill of Rights. It's what protects us, and I'm going to always defend those rights. So I think the council made the best decision, and as quickly as we could.
I applaud the council for passing that resolution. I can tell you that when I was in the parade and it was a couple of floats behind me, it was a little bit shocking and traumatic for me. And I kind of noticed that as we walked by, and especially as we turned around the corner and the float was behind us, the applause sometimes stopped. And I think that was the public's way of saying this is not okay. I can tell you that my work at the city of Portland, where I connect with many, many diverse community groups, and they share with me the impact of any kind of hate speech and how that flag impacts people. And let me tell you something. When people don't feel safe living in Canby, guess what? They're not going to shop here. They're not going to stop by when they're passing through on 99. They're not going to buy a home here. They're not going to help our city grow. And in order to be a prosperous community and a city that people invest in, we need to make sure it's a safe place to live, it's a safe place to shop, it's a safe place to be. I understand that we need to support, that we cannot break laws and the importance of freedom of speech and upholding our Constitution, but I'm always going to be defending the people that are impacted by any kind of hate. And so I applaud the City Council. I was there. The one thing I'm going to put out there is that as a community, it would be so great to be in a dialogue, to talk about this and figure out how do we move forward, because I saw a lot of pain. And as a trained facilitator on inter-race dialogues, I would be more than happy to begin that conversation, whether I'm elected or not elected. That's what I'm passionate about, and I'd love to build some healing and find solutions to how we move forward and make our city even more safe. Thank you.
All right, for question 3, we're going to have 3 minutes per candidate. And this one will start out with Sarah Spoon. What are the most important issues facing the City Council at this point in time? What should be done about them?
I have to tell you that this is my favorite question because a lot of the questions are about how do you feel about how City Council responded in the past? This is the first question that we have that can tell you how we intend to respond in the future. And we're talking about a lot of great issues, and there's a couple more to come that I think fit that same framework. But this question to me is really about what I've learned having conversations in the community at the businesses my husband and I shop at, knocking on doors, talking to voters, and what's important to them. Because I feel like at the very end of the day, it's City Council's job to respond to the needs and desires of the people that live there. And there's a couple of issues that come up no matter how many doors I knock on. One of them is, as Canby grows, will it change? And how do we stop that from happening? And I love that question because sadly, it's outside of the purview of City Council to freeze time. But there are a lot of things that we can do and that have happened over time. Like I said, when I first lived here, this city was 7,000 people, and yet somehow it still retained that sense of community that the people in here own. When I drill down on that question with them, usually it comes to livability. What's going to happen? Where are we going to put all the houses? Where are people going to live? How do we manage that growth? And to me, there's really only 3 answers to managing growth because people are getting priced out of Portland and they're coming this way. And there's nothing we can really do to stop that. But we can balance rezoning. Earlier this year, City Council rezoned some property for housing. Annexation was taken out of the hands of the voters, but City Council can still have conversations about annexation like they did last night. And then the other question is about density and how dense do we want residential areas to be in town? For me, the solution to that is finding balance. Swinging too far with any one of those solutions creates an imbalance, and the solution to me is balance, finding a little bit of each when and where it's appropriate. Another question is about parks. Everyone wants to know when we're going to get that dog park and if there's a splash pad in the future. And this is one of the ways that I see that we could use revenue from the sister measure to the dispensary if it comes. We're running out of money. We don't have much more, and we're about to lose more in our budget. If we should have that dispensary money, I would love to see some of it go towards creating some park maintenance. City Council is also putting out a survey that would have 2 other financial options. One is a renewable levy and one's a maintenance fee. My preference personally is for the levy, but I think either solution will solve the problem, should that be the direction we go. And then I get questions from businesses. The businesses all have the same question. How do we keep our doors open and how do we get people to shop here? And that's a question Chris and I face all the time. We've made a personal decision to spend 90% of our expendable income inside of Canby because we believe that if we want Canby to stay the same, we have a responsibility in that. But I think that there's room for City Council to more deeply engage business owners in what they need and what we're missing that they see every day. Their doors are open every day, and we visit when we're able. And so I think it's about finding consensus and solving problems. You'll hear a lot of other answers about what's coming for us, but that's what I hear from people.
I'm done already. Yeah. It's my dinner timer. Well, Canby has some big issues. All cities do. One of them is fiscal. The cost of government is rapidly exceeding government's ability to pay for itself. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit in a later question. But livability is the big one that everybody thinks about. That's why we live here. That's why we moved here. That's why some of us came back. Canby just was awarded the somewhat dubious distinction of being the healthiest housing market in Oregon. That clearly states that there's a lot of people that want to partake of our livability. And so protecting our livability is a top priority for me. I've had unwavering support for public safety, particularly our police and our fire. And Canby is yearly rated near the top of the safest cities in Oregon, and I plan to keep it there. I thank the neighborhood associations for your concern about livability and being active to protect it. I look forward in my next term to helping establish a central Canby neighborhood association. That's a big gap that we have today, and we need to fill that and get them active. Growth affects livability, very much so. And although we can't control annexations, we can be very intelligent and proactive about how we plan for growth. And part of that means we're going to need to look at a balanced approach to more density. Just last night, as Sarah mentioned, the City Council added some new inventory, what's called R1.5 lots. That means smaller homes on smaller lots. And that's what people are looking for. Economics, our tight urban growth boundary, and personal taste are demand that, and that's one way that we can grow sensibly. Transportation affects our livability. Oh my goodness, we're bisected by 99E, and as I-205 turns into a parking lot, those of you in the neighborhood associations know that commuters are turning our neighborhood streets into bypasses around I-205. It's becoming I-territorial and I-13th Avenue during the rush hours. And we're going to need to continue to work to address that problem, working with ODOT to improve our core intersections. There's a gas tax coming up on the ballot proposed by the county. If that passes, I propose and support that our portion of that tax go to fix the absolute worst streets in town. And those are the ones owned by Clackamas County, not the city. I want to use that money to fix those streets, fix Pine and Maple and Redwood, and bring them up to our standards and get them inside the city limits. Thank you.
It's true, every municipality has some challenges. I think the couple of our biggest ones are things actually we're already working on, which is a good thing. We've already been proactive on some of these things. Housing has been a conversation region-wide, and as liaison with Mayor Hodson to the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, we've been having those discussions at that level. We've been having a discussion at the council level when we had our retreat in April. Those conversations will be continuing on what we can do for creating more housing options for folks. And one thing I'm really excited about is the redevelopment of our downtown block, where we have that lovely civic building, and now we're vacating all those buildings, so we're looking to redevelop that, and we'll have some downtown housing. Parks funding has been another issue that we need to really consider, and again, it's something we've already been working on. The survey's out, and we're gonna look at different options, brainstorming ways to finance parks maintenance. It's something that's really does affect our livability. We all love our parks. We want a place for our kids to play, and to Waite Park is our living room, is it not? We want to be able to have it look nice and be servicing our public for many, many years, and that takes money. So we need to find ways to fund that. And the levy would probably, in my opinion, be the best option, because levies are a good thing rather than a permanent tax, because every 5 years or so you go back to the people and you say, hey, this is what we've said we were going to do, and this is what we did, and we're asking for some more to do this again. And then we have the option to approve it again. So in my opinion, a levy would be the way to go on that, but that's a continuing conversation. And I look forward to continuing with those conversations and the momentum that we have going here in Canby.
That's a really tough question for me, because when I'm connecting with you at the door, I'm hearing we need parks. We need to address rising rent. We need to address transportation. We need to address public safety. There are so many things that are going on here in Canby. But I'm going to tell you what I'm really passionate about. How many of you like the idea of getting into your car, filling it up with gas, driving, filling it up with gas, driving for 1 solid month a year? Because that's my life right now. I live in Canby. I commute to Portland. And those of you who do that commute with me, that's what we're doing. We're basically spending 1 month. I'm not talking about a break. I'm talking about filling up your gas tank and driving again. And that, when a realtor broke that down to me, and when I was thinking about maybe moving out of Canby, and I eventually couldn't stomach the thought of moving out of Canby, but that's what it broke down to. And that is way too much time. I almost cried for a month when I figured that out. I've kind of forgotten about it. But we have so much we could do. And one of the things that I'm going to bring to City Council is a network of relationships. I work in the city of Portland. I have established relationships in Salem, with Metro, with TriMet. I am the community outreach coordinator for almost 20 years. I know how to do this. And I will bring the people together to make these changes, because you know what? The other thing that happens is that we have an amazing system here. We have the CAT bus. But half the time that I'm on it, it has almost nobody there. And that breaks my heart. Because taking the 99, because I travel, when I'm getting up in the morning, every day, how am I gonna get to work? Is it going to be the CAT bus and then connect to the Orange Line? Because that's 2 hours. I would love to use the CAT bus, because as a family that I'm raising here, half the time I'm not stopping at Thriftway to buy a cup of coffee. not stopping on the way back to buy groceries. Not that I do anymore because my sons have taken over all of that. But that's money that we are losing as Canby for our city. And what are we going to do? I know we hired a contract, or we hired someone to do outreach. I want to help because I have an expertise in doing culture-specific outreach. Let's hear from the folks that are struggling with disabilities. Let's hear from single moms. Let's hear from those who are struggling with poverty. And when we make our transportation plan, let's make sure that it includes the thoughts and the challenges and the barriers of everyone. That's my commitment to you as a counselor.
Well, some of the things that I think are really important, in no particular order, I mean, we could talk for hours on this, is a successful redevelopment of our vacated city buildings. And I just wanted to share with everyone the steps that we've taken to do that. One of the first things we did was we got an appraisal on all of the buildings. We invited various developers to come forward with their recommendations, what would be their best use of the property. We selected a best option, and we're pursuing that option. And I'm very comfortable with the steps we've taken. If that comes off the way we hope, that's going to create retail, restaurants, and it's going to create living opportunities for people to live downtown and to help the health of our business community. Another one is the successful build out of our industrial park. Our current industrial park is about 40% built out. It employs approximately 750 people. Our economic development director has been working very hard to market our industrial park and attract businesses. She's done an outstanding job and has a good many prospects in the pipeline. And one of the things that Irene mentioned that I certainly agree with is I, for a time, commuted from Canby to Portland every day, and oh boy, that was not something that I enjoyed. So we want to create opportunities where people that work here can also live here and really make advocates for Canby. We need to work hard to bring county roads into the city. As developments come online, work with the county to bring county roads into the city and up to standard. Our city's greatest asset are its people, who continue to bring us more efficient ideas on how to run the city. And another one, at last night's city council meeting, really have to thank Greg Perez for talking to us a little bit about tourists. I think you said there were 600,000 people that come through Canby every year. A lot of people don't realize there's 350,000 people that just go through our event center. I mean, if you think about all of the activities that happen and around town every year, we've got the fair and rodeo, we've got the Dahlia Festival, you've got the Hair Fest, dog shows. And if we can create a thriving business community, a strong industrial park, and pristine accommodations, give the people that are coming through here an opportunity to, stay here, have short-term, high-caliber RV accommodations, have a hotel that people can stay, and really just roll out the red carpet for these folks, and I think that'll do wonders to help the health of Canby.
All right, it's about 7:20, and we're going to have a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for 3 more questions. Yeah. All right, so we're back at the 2016 Canby City Councilor Candidates Forum. We have 3 questions left, and we're running, I think, a little ahead of schedule, so we've got about an hour left in our evening. I wanted to remind the counselors and everyone of the time guidelines. So we have 2 minutes per question, and then 4 minutes for the candidate conclusions at the end. And Bob over here is going to hold up the flag when you have 30 seconds, and then wave it when you're done. Okay. All right, so this question number 4, we'll start out with Councillor Tim Dale. What have you done in the past year to cause voters to vote for you?
Is this one 3 minutes?
This one is 2. The next three questions are 2 minutes, and the conclusion is 4.
Great. What have we done in the past year? It's been a big year. I think the biggest thing is what we just celebrated, the opening of our brand new combined library and city hall. Just a marvelous project to have in Canby. We brought it on time and on budget, actually $350,000 less cash than the original library plan and $5 million less than the architects said we could do it for. Plus, we got 2 buildings instead of 1. We have a brand new city hall, which gives us the bonus of being able to consolidate 3 city offices and turn over most of a prime downtown city block to private development and get it back on the tax rolls. That's a big win for Canby. As chair of the budget committee, I've been pleased to help lead our 12-member budget committee through the process of setting up, establishing, reviewing, and getting approved our city budgets. We started out, when I got on the council, on a pretty precipitous slope. We were on a fast track to running out of cash, and we've been able to vastly improve that. We're in a much better position now. We have more work to do, but we're much better off. As chair of the Urban Renewal Agency, I've been working with our mayor and city administrator and the rest of the agency to bring in that exciting downtown mixed-use concept that you've seen in the Herald. That is poised to totally revitalize further our downtown. You bring in at least 100 new residents to live, work, shop, and play in downtown. That is a big win for business. I've worked to get URA funds to Canby Fire Department to upgrade their ambulances and their fire station. And we're very close to announcing another deal that will return multiple acres of publicly held land back to the private rolls. And finally, look at our business park. It's exciting to see millions of dollars being invested by developers. What a testimony to their faith in Canby, the direction it's going, and in the current leadership. Thank you.
It's kind of cool to hear all those things at once. I actually will just add to what Councillor Dale started, because we've had such great momentum going on in this city and things that we're really proud of as a council. Something that I'm pretty proud of, though, is this successfully fighting to have your right to vote on urban renewal spending. That's never been done, to our knowledge, in the state of Oregon until our precedent-setting ballot measure that you guys approved by a large margin to have that nice consolidated building down in town and that we're enjoying so much, and a combined use building that saves taxpayer dollars. I also helped reboot I was helped facilitating the reboot, I'll call it, of the Southwest Canby Neighborhood Association. I was handed this one. I'm on Riverside Neighborhood Association liaison, and the Southwest didn't have a liaison, so I volunteered to be their liaison, and they were having some leadership challenges with folks that were not around and not able to be the president, and we had somebody pass away, and so we really needed to restructure that leadership team, and Jackie volunteered her time to be the president of that, and I helped them with the restructuring of their bylaws so they can actually come together with a quorum and make some things happen. And I think neighborhood associations are so important in citizen engagement, and anybody who knows me knows that I respect the public process. I really, really try and encourage everybody to be involved in their city and in their politics of the city. And I think the neighborhood associations really help facilitate that, which is why I'm also working towards getting a central Canby neighborhood association. We have all 4 corners are represented, but the center, where the most dense population of our Hispanic community, not represented by a neighborhood association, and I think that's something that's just sorely missing in this city. So that's something that's really important to me to make that happen. And with downtown housing coming, we'll need them represented as well. So it'll be the whole center as the boundaries. If you look at the boundaries of the neighborhood associations, the whole center around downtown is not having a representation. So I think with the momentum of our city, we want everyone represented and everyone engaged. So that's what I'll be working to do.
That was a really hard question for me. I was born in Marion County. I'm the oldest of 11 children. And all my life, at the age of 8 and at the age of 12, I was a translator at doctor's offices in tax preparation time. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because I have a capacity to arrive, learn, connect, bring people together, and get things done. As a resident here in Canby, my children were high school students. I have 4 graduates from Canby High. I was fundraising for them because they were wrestlers. So I've done a lot of work around fundraising there. I was the community outreach coordinator for Clackamas Women's Services. I started a support group in Malala with the intention of bringing the support group to Canby. I've been working with domestic violence survivors here in Clackamas County. Before I got my job with the city, I started a nonprofit and was able to put on 4 galas right here in Canby at the Antonina Ballroom that brought the Russian No Believer community, which is a community that's pretty closed, to have dinner 4 years in a row with everyone else. So the reason I'm telling you all these things that I've done in the past is that in the last year, I have done a lot and connected with many people. I've knocked on over 1,000 doors. I was able to bring people together that got behind my campaign, and they're dialing for dollars. They're reaching out the vote by phone, in person, and I've connected with Bridging Cultures and the Latino community. I'm also working with the Latino community to build relationships between the community and the police, because we need to do that here. I have this capacity, and I'm excited about working with our city to make things different. Thank you.
Okay, over the last year, I've supported the efforts of the council and the mayor and the city to deliver a new library civic building on time and on budget, work as a group to develop and approve the best development option for the vacated city buildings, work as a group to review and approve a number of facade improvement projects in and around the downtown, work with the council and the mayor and community volunteers to rescue the Independence Day celebration and event. And I'm specifically a car enthusiast, and John Savory and I got to be car show judges this year. That was a lot of fun. Work as a group to review and approve the master plan for North Redwoods. Work as a group to review and approve the Sequoia Apartments behind Fred Meyer. Work as a group to review and approve a variety of traffic safety measures around the community. And work as a group to approve a permanent cat location for their fleet. And these are just some of the projects that I wanted to mention. Thank you.
I was told to bring the mic up. Okay. This is an interesting question, because the question is, what have you accomplished in the last 12 months to cause someone to vote for you? And I don't know about you, but I've never voted for anyone based on just what they did in the last 12 months. I believe the privilege to lead is earned over a lifetime. But I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to answer the question that was asked of me, and it's going to tell you a little bit about who I am as a person. First and foremost, I've always been an advocate for those people in need. This year, my husband and I were honored to be invited to a national event in Nashville, where we were surprised and excited to be awarded the 2016 National Advocates of the Year for a patient advocacy program. And at that same event, I was asked to speak to people who have been living their life with marginalized health on how they can improve their life, stop thinking just inside the boundaries of health, and start thinking about what else they might want to accomplish in their lifetime. I'm an avid volunteer. I volunteer at a lot of community events, including just in September, we had Canby Cares at the New Life Foursquare Church. I volunteered there. I've always volunteered at the Canby schools where my children attend. My husband and I are very involved in fundraisers for an organization that raises money to get basic products for people marginalized and in need. For example, basic toiletries and women's health care products for those low-income families in the Portland area. I have a passion for business. I'm an engaged member of the Canby Chamber of Commerce. My husband and I own a business. And I like to talk to business owners about how we can better support them. Additionally, I have a passion to understand. In the last year, I've sought the counsel of City Administrator Rick Robinson on how we can better address issues involving the city budget, what needs are coming that we might not foresee. I've talked to Renata about the Urban Renewal District and what needs are happening there. Again, in the Chamber of Commerce, and then I engage with the Latino community leaders on how we can better integrate our communities together. And I want you to know that I've done all of this not because I held a seat or had a responsibility. I did it simply because I cared. And if I've done all of this in the last 12 months just because I cared that much about the community I live in, imagine what I can do as an elected official.
Oh, okay. So that was the conclusion of question 4. Question 5 is describe your experience or education that would give voters the confidence that you understand how to budget public monies, especially considering the severe shortages we will face with the PERS increase. And we're going to start again with Councillor Hensley.
This is a kind of a tough question because financial pressure that affects all of local governments. And the cost of government is outpacing our revenue, and it's an immense pressure on all of the municipal governments. But I think that 5 years of tough budgets, we even had to have some staff reductions at times. I think we're healthier now, but we still have some challenges ahead of us, and the PERS situation will definitely impact our budget. But I think that 5 years of tough budgets and working together with our budget committee the way we have, I think gives me the experience that we'll need to go forward and plan for the budgets in the future.
Raising 7 children teaches you a lot about budgeting, because God forbid you get it wrong. It's a lesson that you basically learn once maybe, and you never have to relearn it. And so I want to share with you that I raised 7 children, and the majority of that time I raised them as a single mom. And I am currently debt-free except for my mortgage, and I intend to stay that way. My plan usually is not about my family, it's about leaving a legacy for my future generation, not just my children, also my grandchildren. And so I take that perspective on all money, on all budgets. And working for the auditor's office right now, where the audit lens is always on. And as I work in that daily role, I am always watching, is there money how am I spending my money? How am I spending my budget? And what is the perception of how I'm spending the budgets? It's not just how the money's spent. What is the perception from the public about how that money's spent? Because there is an audit lens on all of us when we work in government. And so that's the lens I will bring to this work. And it's not about what we need to accomplish with our budget today. It's about planning it out for this year, next year, and even a generation ahead for a city like ours, because it's our children who are going to inherit this city. And that's what the perspective that I will bring. The other thing I want to mention is that in our city, we have amazing people. We have amazing volunteers. And I've already experienced that, and I've already led that way with my current work. I work with interns, I work with volunteers. I look at other city resources. Instead of filing a $5,000 contract for facilitation, often I will trade with another coworker who will come in and facilitate a dialogue for us, for example. So that's what I'll bring to the City Council. My personal experience with finances, which are always fiscally responsible and frugal. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been city councilor for 3 years. In all those 3 years, I've been on the budget committee. I've been involved with service clubs for the last 20 years. I've been in the investment representative and financial advisor for the last 30 years. And one of the things that all of those things have in common is problem solving. And I feel like I work well with others. Basically, for almost every problem, there's usually several solutions, and working together to find the best one is the way I like to solve problems. And our city is very, very fortunate. One of the best decisions we've made as a council was hiring our city manager, Rick Robinson, who comes to us with considerable experience and insight in guiding us through the challenging times ahead. All of our department heads and city staff are top-notch individuals who I'm confident understand the challenges and are willing to work toward a successful outcome. And our newest finance director was with PERS for 10 years.
This is a great question. I sought some counsel on this. Much like Irene, I used to think that the most complicated budget I would ever deal with was one with 4 kids, 3 of which are teenagers. They need a lot of things. But I've grown a lot since then. Number one, I want to address the PERS question that was asked. And every city is going to be affected differently by the PERS increase. I sought counsel on this from the city administrator, and he indicated to me that the bottom line for the city is we're going to be impacted by about 3.5% in revenue that we're accustomed to be able to put where we want that needs to be redirected to the increasing costs of PERS. And that's not immaterial. But I want you to know that I'm ready and I'm experienced. Number one, I have a lot of experience in private sector budgets. The role prior to the one that I have now was managing the manufacturing division for a multi-million-dollar company. And in that, we faced serious budget restraints because my particular division had been decreasing in revenue for the previous 10 years before I got there. And in 2 years, I was able to increase revenue by 176%. That was through building relationships and sales, but I also had to learn how you disperse money when you have limited funds and you can't always adequately predict what you're going to have the following year, much like we're struggling to understand exactly what percent PERS will impact us. Public budgets are different though, and I've sought counsel in better understanding that too. I understand that we have a general fund, but some of the money is especially appropriated. PERS will be impacted by that. For example, pool employees are public employees, and so the portion of PERS increase will come from the pool levy for them. But some of it's going to hit us on the general fund bottom line. The great news is Canby has a budget committee that's private citizens and then all of city council. And Rick Robinson talks to all the department heads to determine their needs. And year after year, their needs are greater than the funds that we have available. So the question isn't just about how good are you at understanding the way a budget works, which I hope that you see now that I do understand that, but how good are you at prioritizing and building consensus? Because there's simply not enough money to go around. And I've spent a lifetime learning how to build consensus and how to distribute funds on a limited budget. And I'm ready to do that for our city as well.
I have a degree in business management, and I've spent most of my career managing multi-million-dollar budgets, both for private owners and for publicly held firms. And Wall Street and private owners are tough bosses to please, let alone a wife and 2 teenage high school daughters who have a whole different set of priorities than I do. PERS is an ornery critter for cities to deal with. 62% of our general fund is spent on people, salaries and benefits. Just over a third of our labor costs are actually the benefit side. Half of that goes to health insurance, 30% of it goes to PERS. And in the end, that winds up being a $1.1 million price tag to the city. And next year with the PERS increases, we're looking at a $250,000 increase in our premiums. That's a $250,000 that can't go to other things like police and parks. And our projected revenue increase from property taxes is only about half of that. So we got a gap. In being the budget committee chair and through my experience in private, you're looking at a guy that's pretty combat hardened when it comes to budgets through the toughest of times, knowing how to prioritize, knowing how to direct skim funds to where it's needed the most, figuring out what's important to people, what's important in ensuring that we deliver the services that we need to. We got some real challenges ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to bringing that proven experience and leadership to Canby to get us through the upcoming fiscal crises that all cities are going to be facing. Thank you.
All right, this next question, or actually our final question, would you support a city motion to end the urban renewal district as soon as possible? Why or why not? And this one goes to Irene Konev.
I would actually not support ending the urban renewal because the bonds have gone out. There is money that needs to be paid back, and if we end this, does that mean that we end up with a bigger tax burden? What does our city need? I think we need to come together and figure this out as a city, because it affects all of us. And so what I would love for us to do is sit down and have a lot of conversation around that very important topic. Because as I said before, our children inherit our cities, and we need to make sure that we leave a bright future for them. Thank you.
The urban renewal districts have made some significant improvements and investments in our community through the new police station, Front Avenue redevelopment, numerous facade improvements, a new library and civic building, new Sequoia Bridge in the industrial park, and in the industrial park in general. I would recommend we close the district when is reasonably possible. And so when is reasonably possible? Well, there's two bonds, the Library Civic Center and the Sequoia Parkway have repayment restrictions. The earliest date for payoff would be 2022. The Urban Renewal Report explains the detail as follows. When will the Urban Renewal District end? In accordance with ORS 457.075, the district cannot be terminated until all indebtedness to which a portion of the tax increment pledged for payment is fully repaid. If no additional debts is issued and debts are paid in accordance with the current maturity schedules, debt would be fully repaid June 1st, 2036. Because of limitations on early debt repayment, the earliest the debt could be paid off is June 2022. However, it is unlikely that the district will have collected enough tax increment to be in a position to fully repay the debt at this time. Collection of tax increment is dependent on the growth in assessed value property within the district. Thank you.
No, I would not agree to sign a city ordinance to close the URD as soon as possible, but I'm going to tell you why, and it's probably not what you expect. Number one, I don't like terminology like as soon as possible. I think it's ambiguous. Like Clint said, the soonest we can do it is 2022, but at that point we'd have significant debt still out, which disallows us to end the URD, and I don't want to increase property taxes to make up for that. Also, 2036 is our current amortization, but there's a third way. And number one is that we can accelerate debt payment if we want to close it earlier, and that's an option. But I think in addition to that, in talking to the city administrator, Rick Robinson, about what the future of downtown looks like, there is also money in the URD that would allow us to put some capital investment in projects that could bring additional revenue and private sector investment into our community without taking on additional debt. And so that's something I would be interested in doing. But most importantly, when I saw this question, I thought it was odd that we might make a decision for a city council 20 years from now. And so I asked Rick and our city attorney, Joe Lindsay, and just as I suspected, it's actually not inside of our authority as city council now to make that decision because we can't terminate it right now. And so city council has to make the decision when we have the capacity to terminate. And I don't like the idea of overreaching our capacity as city council now, but I also don't agree with taking on additional debt. So I'm looking for the median solution. We can't take on additional debt right now. We don't really have the ability to sustain repayment with the other budget situations that we're coming up against. So I would say not to take on more debt, but we don't actually have the authority as a city council to say that we will close it as soon as possible. So I would just continue on accelerating repayment where we can. If there's an opportunity to make an investment without taking on debt that would add a lot of value to our community, I would consider that. But I think there's a reasonable response in the middle that says we won't overreach, but we can find a solution to pay off the debt a little bit sooner.
Well, as mentioned, the Urban Renewal Agency simply cannot be shut down until all of the debt's retired. And that's not likely to happen until sometime later in the next decade. And another council, another agency will decide that at the time. Urban renewal financing, it's a powerful tool. And like any tool, you can use it correctly or you can misuse it. I happen to think Canby has done a really good job with it. We've been praised by other municipalities and agencies for how well we have done. We've added a lot of value to the district. We've improved our downtown streets. We have a new police department and emergency operations center, a new library and civic hall combined, working on downtown residential developments. And we've got the largest shovel-ready industrial park in the metro area. And we compete internationally to bring businesses into that park. Urban renewal comes at a cost, though. There's a siren song to it that says, hey, your property taxes don't go up. But over time, other agencies like the city and the fire department and Clackamas Community College get starved of tax money. And eventually, when the debt's paid, those agencies will make a lot more tax revenue than they would have without the urban renewal investment. But in between, it is a tough time on them. And so to answer the question, no, we can't shut down the Urban Renewal Agency at this point. There's $8 million left on the Urban Renewal Agency's credit card, so to speak. I don't advocate spending any more of that. We do not need to incur more debt. We need to pay off the debt we have as quick as we can, use the excess urban renewal cash to invest in our capital and our downtown and other renewal projects, and enjoy the fruit of our investments. But let's not borrow any more money. Thank you.
Would you support a city motion to end the URD ASAP? Why or why not? Absolutely. And I support a motion. I didn't say, do you support writing an ordinance that ends it today? I absolutely support a motion to start the process to end it. Don't borrow another nickel. Use every penny that we are able to within that urban renewal money to accelerate debt payment and retire that debt as soon as possible. And the reason is, I believe that the project list, we have a beautiful civic building, and we have a redevelopment going on the civic block that's going to bring us downtown housing, it's going to bring us more retail and restaurants, and revitalize our downtown. I believe the mission of the your urban renewal district is complete, and therefore we should be doing everything we can to retire the debt as soon as we can and close that district. So then the tax revenue can go to the appropriate budgets. Canby Fire, the sheriff, the state school fund, even our city general fund could benefit from those tax dollars, and we need to get there as soon as we can.
All right, so now we're going to have candidate conclusions for 4 minutes each, and we start with, let's see, Sarah. Wait, no, we started with Irene last time. Then Clint, maybe? Clint, okay. Good, crowdsourcing.
Well, serving as city councilor of Canby, we have 6 city councilors and 1 mayor. We work together as a team to serve the community. We solve problems. We try to do the very best job we can in a responsible and timely manner. Each councilor is a liaison to at least 2 committees. We attend meetings, report back to the council and mayor. We spend considerable time working to serve the community. I would estimate 15 to 20 hours a month as an estimate on my part. I think that's low for a lot of them. Some of the accomplishments of our council over the past 3 years: identifying and hiring a city manager who has far exceeded our expectations, sought voter approval for the new library civic building, assembled a team to design, build, and complete a new library civic building which was completed on time and on budget, make continued progress in the build-out of our industrial park, which is approximately 40% built out and employs 750 people, promoted our downtown and reviewed and approved numerous facade improvement projects, reviewed a variety of options for our vacated city buildings and developed a plan for redevelopment, reviewed and approved a variety of housing options, rescued the 4th of July Independence Day celebration event, reviewed and approved a master plan for North Redwood Street, identified a permanent location for the CAT office and bus fleet. These are just some of the things we've accomplished together. I'm proud of how well we've worked together and how much we have accomplished in my time as city councilor. I've served in the following liaison duties in my 3 years as city councilor, and livability and quality of life are job number 1. Liaison to the library for a short time, help mend fences and help get the project back on track and report to the council. Liaison to the Canby Planning Commission, review new projects, report to the council. This has been especially helpful to see where the growth is taking place in the community so traffic safety can try to keep up. Liaison to the Canby Traffic Safety Commission, review a variety of citizen concerns, work hard to identify cost-effective solutions, report to the council. Some of the projects the Traffic Safety Committee has supported: reduction of speed limit on territorial and township, recommendation of lighted crossings in a variety of locations, recommendation of sidewalks and lighted crossings at Canby High School, recommendation of a variety of traffic signs on 13th Street when Sequoia Bridge opened up, recommendation of 4-way stop at Sequoia and Township, 4-way stop at 10th and North Ivy, numerous crosswalks in the community, speed humps on North Birch, increased traffic patrols on high-volume streets, digital speed signs around town. If re-elected, I will do my best to work with the council and the mayor to continue to support and promote our wonderful community and continue to make livability and quality of life number 1. I hope to continue the efforts with the Traffic Safety Committee and the Planning Commission, two dedicated groups of individuals who have devoted considerable time to come up with solutions to our various traffic safety planning issues. It's a privilege to serve Canby, and I appreciate your consideration of me.
First off, thank you again, everyone, for coming, and thank you for having us, Hope Village, Shasta for moderating, and the neighborhood associations. We got our voters pamphlet, I think, last week, and as soon as I got it, people started calling me because, no disrespect to everyone up here, because they've done it the way that it's always been done, but I'm the only candidate standing up here that took no endorsements from other politicians, and I want to tell you why I did it that way. It's the way it's always been done. It's not necessarily wrong to do. But for me, when you're selecting an official for a nonpartisan position, it shouldn't be so much about endorsements, because what an endorsement says is this is someone that thinks like me, and this might give you an idea of what they think. And in cases of nonpartisanship, really in the case for me of electing anyone, the question is really more not what they think, because what they think tells you how they feel about things that have already happened. When I hire someone for my staff, I care more about how they think. And I want to talk in the last few minutes that I have about what I've taught you tonight about how I think. Number one, when I make decisions, I like to think of myself as a measured and thoughtful decision maker. And in all the answers I've given tonight, I've talked about how I seek wisdom and counsel. But wisdom and counsel only exists if you talk to people and work with people that disagree with you. If we have a city council that all thinks the same, then there's only one person needs to be there, right? And so seeking counsel means talking to people that disagree with you. And I respect that Tim disagreed with one of my positions. And I think that's one of the things that will make me a great leader. I'm not afraid to disagree with people, but I can seek counsel and I can find solutions in the middle. I've also demonstrated that I listen to all sides, that I'm not resolute in solutions that are either or. It's not about banning a float. It's about finding a solution that makes everyone feel safe and also protects the Constitution. It's both and solutions. I've demonstrated that I'm a member of the community, that I'm not just here because I want a position, I'm here because I care. When it came to finding out how people thought about the float on 4th of July, for example, it wasn't about my opinion. It was about seeking the opinion of the people that felt affected by the event and then finding a solution from there. I've also demonstrated a desire to serve without any obligation, which I think is meaningful. And I've also demonstrated that I'm solution-driven. So when it comes to being in the private sector or volunteering, that everything I've done isn't about talking about what we disagree about so much, but about finding a reasonable solution, even if it doesn't fall in line with a particular ideology or political opinion. I think that when you think polarized, you make polarized decisions. And I'm about being more in finding solutions in the middle and consensus. I've also demonstrated that I'm a servant leader. I serve first and ask for opportunity to lead second. And I think that's something that I look for in a leader. When politics and your vote is just boiled down to whether or not you agree with someone or whether or not they share your political opinion or your ideology, what you've done is created barriers where they don't need to exist. We're neighbors and we're community. And when someone leads with their political opinion, what they're telling me is what we don't have in common and that we might not hear each other. And as your leader, I promise to always lead first with the goal to drive consensus building. And then in that, I can listen to people who disagree with me and we can find things that we might agree on. And finally, I want you to know that I'm incredibly accessible. I've seen many of you downtown. But I have some paperwork in the back that has my email address, and I'm going to stay afterwards, and you can get my phone number from me if you want, or if you'd like to sit down and talk. I want you to know that regardless of where you come from, I'm always willing to listen, and I have learned more than once from people who I sat on opposite sides of the spectrum from. And I hope that in learning how I think, I've earned an opportunity for one of your 3 votes.
Well, as we wind down tonight, thank you everyone for coming. It's been a long evening for you. Thank you for spending it with us. Tonight you've heard a bit about who we are. I hope you've gotten a chance to see what kind of people we are and how we think and what makes us tick, what our passions are, and where we stand on the issues. In comparison, my non-incumbent challengers have been able to help you get to know them. They've been able to give you an idea of what they want to do and some general ideas on how they operate. For myself and my fellow incumbents, we've been able to show you positions of record. We've been able to tell you about solid results. We have a proven leadership and vision that we've shown you tonight. And we've shown you that Canby is better now than when we started on the council. And that for me is a real measure of my personal success in doing my job as a servant and as a leader to this community. I look forward to continuing to provide calm, collaborative, steady leadership, keeping us focused on what's important to Canby, what's important to our children, and what's good and healthy for Canby, both now and for generations to come. It's been an amazing experience to be on the council. We cover the entire political spectrum, and sometimes we agree, and a lot of times it's a raucous debate. We are people who feel passionate, and sometimes we disagree loudly with each other. That's a good, healthy sign. We are people of values. But in the end, I am, and we all have been, people of passion that love Canby and want to do the very best we can for it. I hope to continue to do that for you, to continue to safeguard our livability, to put public safety as our top priority, protecting ourselves and our children, protecting the rights of everyone, including everyone, being diverse yet being family. And I grew up here. As you heard, I brought my family back here so that my kids could grow up here. And my retirement, it's coming closer every day. It gets scary when I look in the mirror and go, wow, it's getting close. So I plan to retire here, and I'm working hard today to make this a great city for my kids, for my retirement, and so that my kids will want to stay and raise my grandkids here so I can see them a lot right here in Canby. So thank you for your time tonight. I ask for your vote to continue to serve you in the public forum, and thank you for the evening.
I likewise want to thank Bob and Jackie, Dan and Doug. Gordon back there, thank you. And thank you to Shasta. And thanks to Hope Village for lending this space to this event, and all of you for coming out and listening to us. I've enjoyed working for you, and I'm proud of the work that we've done as a council. We have a council that's made up of some very different ideologies, very different political persuasions. And as Councilor Dale mentioned, we get into some debates, some heated ones at times. But at the end, we usually come to a 6-0 vote. We can get to the end of the discussion and find a way to agree and make policy for the city. I will continue to advocate for spending priorities that ensure our needs are met. Investing in public safety and infrastructure is essential for Canby to remain one of Oregon's safest towns and, as we just learned, the healthiest housing market. So we need to remain steadfast in those budget priorities. Sorry.
Tracy, do you want to move your mic down a little bit?
Again? Okay, sure. I will continue to defend the city charter and protect local control. Sorry. I'll continue to give you a voice and never vote for a tax increase without a vote of the people. I'll advocate for policies and programs that encourage business growth while protecting that small town feel that we love so much. I'm going to be working to expand and strengthen the neighborhood associations and encourage all citizens to be engaged in the city process as we grow together. Thank you, and I ask for your vote.
When my children were little, we traveled a lot. And I remember a particular day, we still had a couple hours to go, and everybody was hungry. And so I asked the question, hey, where do you all want to eat? And I had a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, right down to little Victor, who was 1.5 years. And they all had all these ideas, and some were passing notes from the back so that they would have their say in where we were going to have dinner or lunch. I can't remember which it was. I know I was tired. And the 3 boys in the middle, age 8 and 9 and 12, were kind of shouting over each other. And little Victor, all he could do was cry, because that's the only voice he had. And that day just resonates with me so much because somehow I was able to hear them and we were able to come to consensus. All this while I was driving with everyone talking at me at once. And so the reason I'm sharing this story is I have a capacity to listen, to hear, to make decisions, even if it's going to be unpopular. Because let me tell you, for those of us who have teenagers, we're always unpopular. And that's the plan that I have, that when we need to make a decision for the greater good of the city, I am willing to stand alone and do what is necessary for our city. I'm interested in continuing the conversation about transportation. I'm very passionate about finding new housing solutions because I feel like there's a lot more that we need to explore. I am going to work hard to make sure that we have good public safety and that we have good engagement between the community and the police. I will bring the diverse voice to the table. I have the immigrant background, so my perspective is always going to be new and different, and I'm going to be able to hear folks who are not at the table. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is working with our Latino community because no one is speaking for them right now. I remember when I was asked to run for city council a little while ago, like maybe over a year now, and I asked the local leaders, I said, who is reaching out to the Latino community? And they told me that no one was. There's great work being done by Bridging Cultures, and I'll continue to support and work with them, but we are missing a large group of people who are not heard from. One of the things that the city leader or city business owners have said is that they would love to learn how to market to the Latino community. And I would love to engage everyone, those that are not at the table, folks with disabilities, folks struggling with mental health challenges, struggling with poverty. That's my commitment because I know how to reach across the aisle. I know how to work with people who may not think like me, but I'm gonna come to a consensus. I'm okay with being told off if they don't like what I think. I'm okay with that because that's the way we're gonna find solutions. I'm okay with having a hard conversation. That's just who I am. I ask for your vote because I think I will make a difference. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's everybody. So just wanted to again thank all of the candidates here and identify them again for especially our watching audience at home. This is going to be broadcast on Channel 5 probably next week. And so it's Councillor Tracy Hensley, Irene Konev, Clint Coleman, Sarah Spoon, and Tim Daly, right? Dale, sorry. Tim Dale.
First names.
All right. All right. And I just wanted to thank everybody for their very thoughtful responses and staying on time. This is a very civil, community-minded, publicly focused forum. But I think we can also see that there's a difference in style, experience, and focus. So I hope that you guys take those, your decisions to the ballot, to filling out your ballot. We don't have ballot boxes here. So voting day is November 8th, so be sure to get those in the mail. And thank you for everyone. Thank you to the Neighborhood Association for putting this together. Thank you for coming and watching on TV or contributing online to the hashtag Canby Forum. I've seen a little bit of discussion going on there, so that's great. So thank you, everybody, and we got you out early, so.
Good job, you guys. Nice to see you.